Here's one preliminary comment before this video starts. Actually, I've wanted to make this video like I do it every time, edit certain parts and then put them together, but this time when I was trying to edit it, I thought it would be much funnier when I don't edit it at all. So you have to interpret it like this. So I made this video and then I had these breaks where I thought about something and I was thinking, oh, this is never going to be in the final version. So, well, that's what happens when you do it like this. So, hello, I'm back. I'm Michael, also known as Radivis, and the title of this video is Quantified Prestige, Making Intellectual Property Obsolete. So, where have I been the last 2 months or so? Well, there are two things I need to say about this. The first one is that I suffer from some health issues. I have a chronic disease called ME/CFS, that stands for myalgic encephalomyelitis / chronic fatigue syndrome, and it's a really complicated and tough and challenging disease. To describe it briefly, I'd say it's mainly characterized by a much lower general energy level than normal, and better phases and worse phases, like for normal people, but in ME/CFS the energy level is generally lower, and in bad phases it's really terrible. So yeah, about 2 months ago, not so good phase started, and then I didn't feel very motivated, and then something else happened. I went riding my bicycle in the forest, and there was a curve, and there were wet leaves on the street, and I lost control. I fell down on my left side, and then I broke my left collarbone. I went to the hospital to make these nice photos of my skeleton, these x-rays. Okay, this is not where the fracture occurred, this is the joint. The fracture is actually here. It's hard to see, it's just a really minor fracture. It's better. Is it better on this picture? No. Yeah, there's a line that's a bit darker. This is where the fracture happened. And in this picture, it should be a bit better visible. Anyway, that was some weeks ago. I had to wear some kind of bandage. Looks like on this picture. It's called a Gilchrist bandage, or however you speak that. So I had to wear that for a couple of weeks, and now it's fine again. I had also another problem. I couldn't stretch out my left arm like this. It was more like this at best, but it's fine again. Okay. I still feel it a bit, but I can do everything again with my left hand, so that's fine again. And I've made some progress with ME/CFS, so I can do things again. Not everything. Well, in principle I can do anything, but not for a very long time, because with less energy it can drain quickly, and then I get it, low energy phase, and that's really bad. I don't want to tell more about it. Let's start with the interesting things, which is Quantified Prestige. Quantified Prestige is a system that I've developed. It's a reputation economy system. I've wrote a documentation on my system. The link to that is in the description below. So, what is a reputation economy? I define a reputation economy as any form of system in which it suffices to have a high reputation in order to be relatively wealthy. So you don't need regular money. What you need in a reputation economy is a high reputation, and then you can afford to do a lot of things which you ordinarily would only be able to do with a lot of money. So there are a few examples of reputation economies, but they are all fictional. They are mainly found in science fiction. The best description is that of the reputation currency Woofy. It's described in Down and Out in the Magic Kingdom by Cory Doctorow, and it's a really interesting transhumanist science fiction novel. And there you have this currency, this Woofy, and when you have a lot of Woofy, then you can just afford about anything in that futuristic society. And this Woofy only depends on your reputation. So people have to think you earn it and you're good, and then you have a high Woofy, and then you can afford what you want. So unfortunately, this Woofy isn't described in great detail how the system works. So I wanted to figure out how such a reputation system would actually work in the real world. So I had to actually develop a system like that. And this Quantified Prestige is the end result of my considerations. So in principle, this system is already completely described in the documentation. It would probably work if someone implemented it in programming code as web application, for example. Then you could go on that web page and interact with the system, and then it would probably work. Perhaps there would be some problems, but with further development these problems could be fixed. So how does the system work? It's a rather complex system that's necessary in order to give it all the features that I wanted, and it's a necessary complexity in order to get the system to work properly. So how is it working when it works? So there's this core in the middle, that's the reputation system, and around it there you have different apps that can interact with this reputation score and do something with it. So what's this reputation score? It's what I call prestige. Prestige is a form of quantified reputation that's by definition positive. So I don't do negative reputation in this system. There are reasons for that. I don't want to go into details with that, but well, it's easier to deal only with positive reputation. So you have this positive reputation index that's called the prestige index. And how do you get that? Where do you get prestige from? You get it from other users in the system. The system is designed as peer-to-peer network with different people interacting with each other. And what these users can do is they can give points to other people in the network, and the more points you get from other people, the more prestige you have. It's not a completely simple one-to-one relation, but that's basically the idea behind it. There are a few other factors, but it's basically how much points you get from other people. So what do you do with this prestige? Well, so far you only have a reputation system in which not goods are evaluated, but people. People rate other people, and people have these reputation scores. So what do these people do with these reputation scores? Well, it's good to have some kind of reputation system for all people. There are a few applications. For example, if you enter some kind of network, you want to know which people are considered to be competent or important, and the reputation score would give you a rough idea about that point. So that alone doesn't create a really real reputation economy. It's only a reputation system so far. So how do you get to a real reputation economy? Well, I needed some time to figure it out, but you actually need some kind of money. So you couple this reputation index, this prestige score, with some kind of electronic currency. So what you could do is you have a fund, and some people donate into that fund, and out of this fund the money gets distributed to the people depending on their reputation score. The more prestige you have, the more money you get per unit of time. So if you have high prestige, you get a lot of money. Low prestige, you get some money. But the problem with that is that you need this central fund, and that people donate into that fund. This fund could be in Bitcoin, that would be quite neat, or you can do it in euros, US dollars, Japanese yen, or whatever, any form of currency that is available to electronic software. But this is not the optimal solution. The optimal solution is, excuse me, so the optimal solution to distributing money according to prestige is to make a dedicated currency that is attuned to this reputation index. So how does this natural electronic currency work? I call this currency the fluido. It's a comparison to a kind of fluid. So this fluido is generated out of prestige. It's a continuous income in fluido that is based on the amount of prestige that you have. So with a high prestige index, you get a steep income in fluido over time. With a lower prestige index, it's growing also quickly. This fluido would work like any other electronic currency. You could you can transfer it discreetly to other people, or you can transfer it continuously. That would be what I call an outflow. An outflow is a continuous transfer of fluido to another account of another user. Okay, there are other benefits to Fluido. It's designed to be anti-inflationary and anti-deflationary, so it's designed to remain rather stable in value, which is actually what you would want for a good currency which you actually use in the market. The problem with Bitcoin is that there's a lot of speculation, and that causes high volatility in the price of Bitcoin, and that's not what you want for a stable currency. So Fluido should be a preferred currency for a lot of different purposes. Okay. Next. But what's the point of a reputation system? No. What's the point of a reputation economy? Why do I need it? What is it good for? The point of a reputation economy is mainly that it makes intellectual property obsolete, that it can make it obsolete. For example, patents and copyright. It can be argued that the world would be better if there were no patents or copyrights, that people can distribute their ideas freely so that everyone can profit. In theory, that would create a much better economy. So what's the problem with that? Well, there's a reason why intellectual property was introduced, and that is to reward the creators of the contents that are produced, the creators of ideas, of inventions, of books, music, or whatever. So the idea behind patents and copyright is to reward the producers, but when ideas can be transferred with zero marginal cost, which is the case in our current internet age, then this profit of the producers of information, of digital goods, goes at a cost for the majority of people, because they have to pay not only for the it's a bit complicated. The end users pay for the marginal cost at a price that is much higher than zero, which would be the actual cost of distributing the information. So ideally, the users would only pay the fixed costs, the cost for our creation of some kind of product, of ideas, of books, and so on. But what they pay for is the distribution system. So that is quite unnecessary. But if you say, well, I want everything for free, there's a problem with that. And that is, of course, that the creators of the products you want to have are not paid for. So how do you get around this problem? You get around this problem by using a reputation economy. Why? Because if the content producers get reputation and you have a reputation economy, then they get rewarded for what they do. And that is what you want. You want the creators of good information to be rewarded. And a reputation economy does that much better than any intellectual property scheme. So, in theory, a good reputation economy would make intellectual property obsolete. So, that's the main benefit of a reputation economy. There are also other benefits of a reputation economy. One benefit is that consumers would be able to reward businesses for ethical practices, for being ethical, for not doing unnecessary harm, for externalizing costs to the environment, to other people, and so on, or for producing goods that break down after a certain time, planned obsolescence, for example. And ideally, consumers should only reward those companies that don't use these negative practices, and in a reputation economy they can do just that by giving these companies reputation. And there is a third point that's in favor of reputation economies, and that's that reputation economies make it possible for new business models to emerge. And those businesses would be what I call for reputation, and it would work like this. These businesses don't work for profit, they work for building up a good reputation, and that alone would be enough to make this business create all the income it needs to produce its products and services, and perhaps some more for expansion of the business, or for rewarding individual participants, for individual workers. So there is much more flexibility with that approach. You don't need to have a specific market model. You don't need to interact with classical markets. You don't need to sell products. You can give them out for free when they are digital products, at least. Then there would be no marginal costs, so you could give them away for free, so that everyone can have a copy of that. So that everyone can have a copy of these products. Okay. So much about that. There's a new Facebook group I've created recently about my reputation economy system, Quantified Prestige. This group is called Quantified Prestige Community. And if you are interested in this system, then you are invited to join this community on Facebook. So what's this group for? It's for discussing the system, of course, for helping it to develop it further, to discuss issues of reputation economies in general, or quantified prestige in special. And I would suggest you to read the documentation first, and then give some comments and feedback on that. You don't need to read the whole documentation, but at least some parts of that would be beneficial to know about. What are the core parts? The core parts are certainly the esteem system, and the part with prestige, and prestige guided applications, electronic currency distribution funds, and fluido currencies. That would be the most essential parts of the system, and at the end of the documentation there is a brief discussion of some possible issues with quantified prestige. And if you're interested in these rather social or economic issues, then I would suggest you read these parts. And then we can discuss them in detail in the Facebook group. So, what about the development of quantified prestige? Well, the system is actually about 2 years old. No, it's rather, it's even 3 years old. So why isn't it implemented yet? Well, it's because of my health issues. I decided that it's more important to focus on these health issues first and then develop the system, because with this low energy level I can't do much developing. So now that I'm much better able to manage that disease, I probably can develop it quicker. So first I plan to make a test version of Quantified Prestige on my own homepage, radivis.com, and then I would see further, depending on what the issues are with the test version. And the later plans are to make a global distributed version of Quantified Prestige on the blockchain. The blockchain is the technology that's behind Bitcoin, and it enables a distributed version of Quantified Prestige. So I'm trying to do that later on. Okay, if you have any friends who you think are interested in alternative economy schemes, especially reputation economies, then you can invite them to the Facebook group Quantified Prestige Community. So that's it for today. Have a nice day.